guys, so I'm not on the screen today because I wasn't very well last night. I super overslept and I just don't have time to be presenting myself or anything like that. So last night there were protests in Bristol, Kill the Bill protests, and I was watching a lot of that live on a live stream last night, and the reactions to that are coming through this morning, and something that's been extremely not shocking but disheartening and just causing me great despair is the reaction of Labour MPs to this. So yeah, for background, people were protesting the new police bill that's gone through at second reading but has been pushed back for the third reading because people are causing a stink about it, rightfully so, because it would discriminate against the Gypsy Roma traveller community, and it would basically mean that peaceful protest was now illegal and could get you 10 years in prison. So yeah, it's a scary fascist bill, as if this country wasn't barbaric enough as it was. Under the guise of civility, because that's how Britain does it, isn't it? You know, pretending to be all civil and polite, and we're British, and yeah, monstrous. Anyway, so background info. So people were protesting on the streets against this bill in Bristol. The riot police turned up. There were scuffles. If you could see me right now, you know, I'm doing quotation marks. There's scuffles. There were scuffles. The police started battering the protesters were chucking stuff back at the police, a police van was set on fire, and they're saying that a couple of police officers have broken bones, which I'm not celebrating. I don't want to see anybody get hurt at all. I want to make that super clear. The whole situation just is awful and makes me feel great despair, but my solidarity is with the protesters. I have to be clear on that as well. And I say that because the police, it's a job, you know. If you're a police officer, it's a job you can hand in your badge. You don't have to do that job anymore. But these are people protesting the basic right to be able to protest, right? So, you know, you don't have to follow those orders, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to defend the police as individuals too, as this goes on, because I've always been someone who, I don't support the police as an institution at present, and that doesn't mean I think there should be lawlessness or that, you know, we should go to total anarchy, but the police should exist, in my mind, to protect the people. At the moment, they are existing as the soldiers of the state, and they are often utilised against the people, and that is wrong, so that needs to change. So that's what I mean when I say I'm not pro the police, when I say I'm anti the police. It's not that I think individual police officers are evil people, but I think it gets to a point when you're no longer, you have to stand up and say, I'm not following those orders. You know, because it's the same argument, with lots of movements, like the Nazis, for example. Individual people thought they were doing the right thing, they were misled, whatever. But at some point, when you're being asked to do something which is anti the people, which is anti-freedom, it's on you to stand up and say no. You can't just say, oh, I was following orders. So in this bill, obviously, I spoke about what it means for the Gypsy, Roma and traveller community. So if the police are being asked, they're following orders and taking people's homes and sending kids into care and the parents into prison and basically taking part in the destruction of a culture, because these people have nowhere to go. There are waiting lists for the legal traveller sites. They can't go anywhere, so their stuff's going to get taken from them. You know, at what point do we say, you're still a good person, you were following orders? No, at some point you have to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that. The job itself, the profession itself, the institution, the way it's run is corrupt. It's hurting the people. Anyway, so yeah, I was watching a live stream of it last night because I saw on Twitter that it was kicking off, and I do not like to get my news from the BBC because it's always completely skewed, and sometimes they don't cover anything at all, and other times they will present you with something that is just propaganda for the government. And it wasn't really on the news until, you know, it got to quotation marks, you know, the terrible violence, at which point they showed it on the news. So I found a live stream and was watching it on that, and I was very alarmed to see police on horses, protesters being herded into kind of groups where they were all kind of pressed together, which seems ridiculous considering the police their excuse at the moment is, oh, you're breaking COVID restrictions. So yeah, that's a lie. Basically, I saw violence from the police. I saw a man hitting someone with a police shield, who looked like he was about 17 or 18 and who wasn't doing anything violent. He wasn't doing anything to deserve that. He was just smacked with it. I'm seeing indiscriminate baton smacking and kettling, and the police being extremely violent. And I'm not saying the protesters weren't pushing back, they were pushing back. But are we really going to ignore the fact that this was peaceful until the riot police turned up? And isn't that usually the case with these things? Because the way they like to spin it is that, oh, the riot police had to use force because the protesters were unruly. Well, when do we see these clashes happening? It's when the police come out with their shields and their batons and they start pushing people and they have their horses. Like, that is when it happens, because they are essentially using their power against the people. If you send a load of police in riot gear against normal people who are just trying to make sure that this bill does not pass, like, that is a threat. Of course, tensions are going to get higher and higher and higher if you do that. If you send these riot police in, like, that's just obvious to me. Right, so bear in mind, I saw this live, and I feel like I'm being gaslit. I feel like I'm going mad because I saw this, and yet all I am seeing on Twitter today, now I'm looking, is Labour MPs condemning the violence of the protesters. Not a damn word about the violence of the police towards the protesters. I mean, I'm on my Twitter page at the moment. I retweeted some stuff. So let me have a look. Right, so one example is, I mean, I'm sure the Labour Party have been briefed by Keir Starmer to be total simps and to just, oh, we love the police, don't worry, Red Wall, we'll destroy these evil protesters who are actually fighting for everyone's rights to be able to protest peacefully. But look at this, right, so Toby Perkins, MP. So this is what we see, this is what he tweeted. So let me just show you this video. So I don't know if you can see that, let me make that bigger. Right, I'm going to pause that a second. But, like, look at what's going on here. So we have people with signs, people with their hands up, and we have police with shields hitting people with sticks. You've got members of the anguished public yelling shame on you and, you know, being very restrained because, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that the British left is extremely restrained. Right. Meanwhile, these police at the front, these guys are just standing here like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. These people have placards. They have, you know, their arms up and they're getting beaten down by the police. But that's fine. We're just doing our jobs, right? Yeah, sure. Right. And this is the response from Labour MPs today. So, Toby Perkins, MP. And he is MP for Chesterfield. Right. Let's have a look at this. This looks to me like entirely appropriate use of the baton, a good example of proportionate policing under extreme pressure, well done. And he puts clapping emojis. Right, so what we are seeing here, he's literally retweeted the police battering the public who are protesting against the fact that their right to protest is being stripped away. And he's put the clapping emojis, like well done. Proportionate policing. What? I'm sorry, what? Right, and this guy, apparently... So a lot of people from the Gypsy Roma traveller community have said that this guy, this is deeper with this guy, because he is anti-traveller. He is anti the GRT community. So in the past, he had to apologise because, here we are, the Traveller's Times. Right, he put out a statement saying that he would not want a traveller site in his street. And he basically used this bigotry against the GRT community to try and win support. Yeah, look, so this led to accusations from campaigners he was using travellers as a political football to win votes. And he since apologised for it and says he opposes racism in all its forms. But this is suspicious, right? Because this bill will criminalise the GRT community for existing. It will clear them. Like, they will be gone. That culture will be obliterated. They will be put in jail. Their homes and their possessions will be taken. And this guy is now supporting the police against the people who are against that. Right? So this is dodgy as hell. This is nasty. Right, we've got Jess Phillips. I try not to talk about Jess Phillips. I don't like her. I think she is all about her own ego and her own brand building, and I will never forget that she told Diane Abbott to fuck off, and was ever so proud of that and told everyone that. I don't know how she's still got her position after being so pleased about doing that. But anyway, her response to this, she presents herself as a great women's rights campaigner. These people are not only vicious, dangerous and wrong, they also clearly couldn't give a toss about the cause they came to Clare for. Stupidity and selfishness drives them. The police deserve better. Okay, are you hearing this? The police deserve better, right? So this is supposedly a women's rights campaigner. Like, she presents herself as a feminist. Right, a lot of people have said this, but think about this right now. The suffragettes. If the suffragettes existed today, they would be being condemned by this woman, right? Jess Phillips would be condemning them. She would be saying, oh, well, they should be more peaceful, they should be more quiet. I'm with the police who cleared and manhandled the suffragettes, right? And the Labour MPs are setting themselves against that. Some great tweets from Mikey Walsh today. I love Mikey Walsh. I think he's a fantastic campaigner. Labour are showing every square inch of their arse today. And he's right. He is absolutely right. Look at this, right? Just imagine what celebrities on Twitter would have been like about the suffragettes. Okay? This is what we're in right now. Labour MPs would blame the miners for O'Greave and the fans for Hillsborough. Absolutely. Okay, this one. Not gonna lie, I personally feel like setting fire to an empty, non-sentient car is a lot less violent than killing people or beating them up or kettling them or pretending to be someone you're not and having a relationship with them or detaining them or holding a gun to their heads. That is bang on, right? So people coming at this, centrists coming at this and just condemning the protesters, right? And standing with the police on this, are acting like this is a situation where there's already justice. There is no justice right now. The police already have too many powers and they are using those powers against the vulnerable and against the people. The government is using the police to do that. Our so-called Labour Party has been abstaining away. So abstaining on the Spy Cops bill, which allows police to go undercover and rape and murder with impunity, right? So there's nobody standing up for us. This is also Labour's fault. Like, they can condemn these riots all they like, but maybe there wouldn't need to be riots if they had a spine. If they had a spine and they stood up and they showed opposition, maybe people wouldn't need to go on the streets. Maybe people wouldn't be so helpless and angry and feel like there was nothing left to lose, you know? Right, Labour GRT. Repeat after us. Cops shouldn't be turning up in riot gear and beating protesters. Cops shouldn't be vigil goers. Cops shouldn't choke passers-by for shaking their heads at them, etc., etc. Now, all this we know is common sense. But look at the skewed narrative that's coming out from Labour, right? Seriously. Okay, look at this, right? From Hannah Rose Woods. Right, look at this, right? So this is the way we are falling to fascism. These are the responses from people. They are absolutely disgusting examples of the youth in our country. I would have let the dogs loose and observed how really brave they are. However, wouldn't want any of those brave canines hurt. Farmers must be called in and must be allowed to roll into the area with shit sprayers and let them have it full on. Water cannons too good for them, absolute scum. I hope there are some very proud parents tonight. I hope all council tax goes up because Bristol Council must pay all damage. Is there anything more satisfying than seeing these brave scroats crying when getting a chunk whipped out of their leg? I hope the little shit's bites turn septic to well done PD. Like, I have no words for this. I mean, this is where we are in this country. And I blame the Tories, and I blame Labour. It's all one. It's all one because the Labour have been enabling the Tories. Under Keir Starmer, the Tories have got more and more powerful. Labour haven't stood up to them, and so they know there is no opposition, right? So the people feel helpless. Right, this is why I say Jeremy Corbyn was the compromise here, because Jeremy Corbyn made people feel like they had a voice and they had a chance. Okay, so that was the compromise. Labour's killed that off. Labour's killed that dead. So now what the hell are people going to do? Right, of course people are going to demonstrate. Of course people are going to do these things. Right, this tweet. Centrists. When will people learn that only peaceful protest is the answer? Police. Actually, we're making peaceful protest illegal. Centrists. Right, and this one, right. People need to understand that while they're putting in effort to discuss the differences between peaceful protests and violent protests, the police are attacking people either way because to them there literally isn't a difference. Right, this is the point here. I made a tweet about this myself. If you can get 10 years because of this bill for peaceful protest, for literally being annoying or being a nuisance or causing disturbance, right, you tell me why people aren't going to riot, because there's no difference, right? So you want to stop riots and you want to stop violent protests, you're not going to do that by criminalising peaceful protest, are you? Like, in fact, what you're going to do is you're going to create those more angry protests. Right, so this is the tweet that I made. This is a protest because the government is about to give people 10 years for peacefully protesting in an annoying manner. How about leading with that? Of course nobody wants anyone hurt, but guys, the context. They're acting like some group of thugs just rolled up and started causing trouble. This was a protest by people terrified their rights to protest were being stripped away. How can you cover this without that context? Now, Pretty and her lot are stepping back like this has nothing to do with them, like her bill hasn't directly put police officers in a war against the public, like people just turned up for the fun of it. This bill will lead to nothing but misery for everyone except people like Pretty who wish to control the public. Everyone will suffer, and look, we're seeing that already. And I'm already seeing, like, this morning, They're asking Labour MPs, the ones who haven't, to condemn the protesters, right? And they're not asking them to condemn the police. So be very clear on this. When they're saying, do you condemn violence, they're not saying, do you condemn the violence of the police, because no one's allowed to say that. They're all scared. They're all living in fear. Oh no, we can't criticise the police in any way for some reason. They're asking them to basically condemn the protesters to prove that they are, you know, British and stand with British values and all that fascist nonsense. And for me, I don't want to see riots. Like, I don't want to see these things. No one wants to see them. But where do they come from? Like, what is the situation that people are in? And this is the government's doing, and it's Labour's doing. Like, people are in this situation. And the conversation people don't want to have is that all the movements which have given us the rights we have today, they've tried peaceful protest, but it wasn't the peaceful protest that actually got them anywhere. It was the disruption, right? It was the rioting. Because the people in power, they don't care. The people in power have to be forced to care, and that is the truth. And it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to come to terms with, but that is history, and that's where we're at. Like, that is the suffragettes, that is the civil rights movement. And they will whitewash those things, and they will act like, oh, it was achieved by peaceful protest within the bounds of the state and the government. That's not true. It's simply not true. It's not history. Think about the Stonewall riots. Like, it's not how things are done, and it's because the people at the top are corrupt. And bear in mind, when police were manhandling people at a vigil, women at a vigil for Sarah Everard, who was tragically murdered, right? The police waited until it was nighttime, and then they shoved them to the ground, like they manhandled them. Considering the suspect right now for the murder is a Met police officer or a former Met police officer, right? So the argument falls apart. The argument that, oh, the protesters are violent and the police had to resort to it. No, the police start the violence. There was no violence at that vigil. The police started it. The police did that. There was no reason to be pushing them into the ground. And when that happened, right, we had the most mealy-mouthed, cowardly, weak little opposition people in Labour giving out late statements like, oh, I think maybe we should investigate. I'd like to know more about what the police were doing. Or maybe we should check, you know, I'm a bit worried about their conduct, right? Compare that to the scenes we've had of police literally beating protesters and Labour MPs coming out and just like flat out condemning the protesters with no more context, with no more investigation. They're not asking for investigation, for context, anything, right? Look at that. It's not right. It's so corrupt, okay? And I don't know what to do, because this is going to get worse and worse, because, and it's partly because of the left we have right now. I'm saying the left in quotation marks, because people do not have an opposition, right? There is no one to speak for them. There is no one to speak for the people right now. So what on earth do they think is going to happen? Okay, so people are of course going to protest this bill. People are going to fight back. They're going to fight back. Like that's just human nature. So you need to kill this bill. If you do not want like this happening on the streets and this disruption, then Labour need to get off their asses. They need to get off the fence, and they need to stand with the people and support the people. Okay, because that's the only way this ends. That's the only way. And I'm not saying that like some edgy threat. So they worship peaceful protest, even though like historically, you know, it's not been as successful as other forms of protest, right? So they worship that and they want us to go along with that. Fine. But if they make that illegal, which they're planning to in this bill, which is directly what people are protesting against, you make that illegal, you can give someone 10 years for peaceful protest. What on earth do they think is going to happen, right? What do they think is going to happen? I don't understand what they imagined would happen. Of course people are going to fight back against that. Because if you can get 10 years for peaceful protest, then why on earth would you not riot? And even the idea of getting 10 years for peaceful protest, it makes you rage. It makes me rage, right? It's not fair. It's not justice. It's proof that the police are not being used to protect the people, right? It's not justice. They are being used as Priti Patel's little army, the Tories' little army to keep order, right? They're not there for us. They're not there for the people. They're being used directly against the people. Anyway, I don't know. Sorry there's no visual today. Yeah, I'm just on Twitter at the moment. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. This is just an update, really. I'm trying to kind of keep abreast of it all, and I thought, you know what? I want this to be kind of documented on the channel. So, yeah, love you loads. Hope you're keeping safe. Solidarity. And yeah, hopefully I will see you really soon. All right, love you. Bye.